Welcome to NFL Nexus, where we dig into the stories behind the headlines. And today, man, we are heading to Indianapolis because there is a perfect storm brewing. You've got key players who want out, you have the ripple effects of a massive blockbuster trade, and a GM whose job is literally on the line. For the Colts, this draft weekend is way more than just picking players. It's a pressure cooker, and it's all about to come to a head. All right, here's our game plan for today. We're going to start with all that trade block drama and figure out who wants out. Then we'll get to the root of the problem, the massive price they paid for a superstar. From there, we'll put the GM, Chris Ballard, under the microscope and look at his high-stakes gamble. Then you'll see how those unhappy players could actually be the solution. We'll zero in on their most important pick, number 47 overall. And finally, we'll wrap it all up and look at what this really means for the Colts franchise moving forward. So let's just jump right into the mess, shall we? Because the most immediate problem, the thing you can see and feel right now, is the roster itself. Before the Colts can even think about who they're going to draft, they have to figure out what to do with the guys already on the team who want to leave. And we're not talking about fringe players here. These are established veterans, creating this cloud of instability over everything the front office is trying to do. And this isn't just one disgruntled player making some noise in the media. The big question looming over this whole draft is, who exactly wants out? Because this uncertainty is hitting multiple key positions, and it really throws a wrench into their entire draft strategy. You're not just drafting to fill holes, you might be creating new ones by trading away guys you thought were part of the core. So let's break down who these players are, because each situation is totally unique. First up, and this is the one everyone's watching, is quarterback Anthony Richardson. Now, this has been simmering for a while. The team officially granted his trade request way back at the Combine, but so far, crickets. No deal has happened. And you know why? The draft. The draft is the deadline. Because as soon as a team that desperately needs a quarterback misses out on their top guy, their phone is going to be ringing. Draft weekend is the flashpoint, where a deal for Richardson finally happens. Then you've got Kenny Moore II, and this one's different. This guy is the heart and soul of that defense. A 9-year vet, a huge leader in the locker room, a pillar in the community. He's also asked for a trade, but this isn't just a cold, hard business move like with Richardson. All the reporting suggests the team feels a real obligation to do right by him, to honor his service. That personal angle totally changes the negotiation. It might mean they get a smaller return, but it protects their reputation around the league. Okay, and here's a sleeper name you need to keep an eye on. Cornerback Jalen Jones. Now, he hasn't officially come out and said, trade me, like the other two, but his situation, which we're going to dive into in a minute, has taken him from a rising star to a guy without a role. That makes him the perfect candidate to get moved for the right price during the draft. It's a classic example of how fast your fortunes can change in this league. So you have to be asking yourself, what is going on here? Why so much tension? Why would a team that's clearly trying to win now even think about trading away important players? Well, the answer, the real root cause of all this pressure, goes back to one single, gigantic, franchise-altering trade that has completely warped the Colts draft board, not just for this year, but for years to come. All right, let's rewind the tape to the 2025 trade deadline. The Colts front office pushed all their chips into the middle of the table. They made a move that sent shockwaves across the NFL, acquiring one of the best defensive players in the game, superstar corner Sauce Gardner from the New York Jets. This wasn't some move for the future. This was a giant, blinking neon sign that said, our window to win a championship is right now, and they were willing to sell off future assets to make it happen. And you don't have to take my word for it, just listen to the man himself. Sauce Gardner knows exactly what's expected of him. When he says, if I gotta be the first-round pick the next 2 years, it ain't nothing I can't handle, he's not just talking about making tackles. He is openly acknowledging that for 2 straight years, he is their first-round pick. He is the talent they could have drafted. It shows incredible confidence, sure, but it also lays out the immense pressure he's under to perform at a level that justifies that historic price tag. And here it is. This is the bill that came due, laid out in stark black and white. It wasn't just one first-round pick. To get Sauce Gardner, the Colts sent the Jets their first-rounder in this 2026 draft and their first-rounder in the 2027 draft. Think about that. For 2 years in a row, the Colts are just spectators on the most important night of the NFL calendar. They have to sit on their hands and watch every other team get better, all while praying their massive bet on one player pays off. So when you have this severe lack of high-end draft picks, when you've willingly exiled yourself from the first round, where does all that pressure go? Well, it funnels directly to the top, right onto the shoulders of one person, the general manager, Chris Ballard. And for him, this draft isn't just about making the team better. It's about his own job. The clock is ticking, and it's ticking very, very loudly. And here's where things get really personal for him. Chris Ballard is going into the final year of his contract. And when a GM's contract is up, you look at the resume. His is, well, it's pretty thin for someone who's been there this long. 0 division titles, just 1 single playoff win. In the cutthroat business of the NFL, that is not a record that gets you an extension. This draft and the season that comes after it isn't just important, it is absolutely do or die for his career in Indianapolis. So since the Colts' first pick is in the second round, you gotta ask, how has Ballard done there in the past? Well, it's the very definition of a roller coaster. It is all or nothing. I mean, on one hand, he's found guys like Darius Leonard and Jonathan Taylor, legit all-pro franchise-changing players, home runs. But on the other hand, you've got complete whiffs on guys like Quincy Wilson and Kamoka Ture, players who gave them basically nothing. There's no middle ground. It's either a star or a bust, which makes their first pick this year a total coin flip. And if we really zoom in on the team's #1 biggest need, defensive end, the history gets, frankly, pretty alarming. Just look at this chart. He's used 5 second-round picks on pass rushers. Ture and Banogu were complete busts. Tyquan Lewis is a fine role player, but not the star they needed. The one guy they did develop into a solid starter, Dea Odeyingbo, they just let him walk away in free agency, so you get nothing long-term from that pick. That is a massive amount of draft capital poured into one position with almost nothing to show for it. You know that has to be weighing on his mind. Okay, so let's start connecting these dots. The Colts have no first-round pick. They desperately need more draft capital. And their GM has a boom or bust track record in the round where they finally get to pick. All of a sudden, those unhappy players we talked about earlier, they're not just distractions anymore. They are the potential solution. They are the currency Ballard might have to use to fix the very problems his own moves have created. So what could they actually get for Anthony Richardson? Well, the perfect time to strike is right after a QB-needy team misses on their top target, a guy like Ty Simpson. Panic sets in, and they make a call. The likely return is probably a 5th-round pick. Now, you might hear that and think, a 5th? That's it? But here's the crucial insight. Chris Ballard has gone on record saying he thinks the 5th round is the sweet spot of this specific draft. So in his mind, that pick isn't just a late-round flyer. It's a legitimate shot at a quality player. Now, with Kenny Moore, it's a totally different ballgame. This is much more about relationships and reputation than it is about getting the best possible pick. The organization feels like they owe it to him to honor his request after all he's given them. That might even mean they let him have a say in where he goes. Now, that always lowers the return you get because you can't create a bidding war. But for the Colts, it sends a message to the rest of the league that they take care of their guys, which is currency in itself. And then you have the absolutely fascinating story of Jalen Jones. I mean, look at this career path. He comes in as a 7th-round pick, a guy everyone assumes is just a camp body, then he blows everyone away, becomes a full-time starter in year 2, and looks like a building block. But then, coaching change. The new DC, Lou Anarumo, brings in a new system that needs bigger press-man corners. Jones, who is a smaller guy who thrived in the old zone scheme, is suddenly a square peg in a round hole. He gets benched. He's the textbook definition of a change of scenery trade candidate for a team that runs the system he's built for. So, all of this, the pressure from ownership, the roster holes, the lack of a first-round pick, the GM's contract, his own drafting history, it is all funneling down. It all converges on one single moment. The Indianapolis Colts' first selection of the 2026 draft at pick number 47. One pick with the weight of the entire organization resting on it. So just imagine you're in that Colts war room. You have sat there patiently while almost 50 other players have been picked. Finally, you are on the clock at number 47. This one decision, this one name on a card, carries the weight of the entire offseason. It's a massive dilemma, and the choice they make could define not just this season, but Chris Ballard's entire legacy as a GM. And then they've really got 4 main paths they can go down here, and each one tells a different story. First, do you risk it all? Go back to that defensive end position. It's their biggest need. But as we've seen, Ballard's history there is awful. A hit could save his job. A miss could get him fired. Second, do you play it safe? Draft a linebacker, a position where Ballard has hit home runs before. It's his comfort zone. But is safe good enough to get this team over the top? Third, do you trade back, move down from 47, collect more picks, give yourself more lottery tickets? It's a risk-averse move in a year where you have to win. Or fourth, do you just take the best player available, ignore need, and just draft the highest-rated guy on your board no matter what? It's a sound strategy. But can Ballard afford a long-term play when his own job is on the line right now? All right, let's pull a lens back and look at the big picture here. This is not just another draft for the Indianapolis Colts. They are truly standing at a crossroads, and the direction they pick this weekend is going to set the course for this franchise for the next several years. The most important thing to understand here is the incredible, almost suffocating sense of urgency. When you trade away your future first-round picks for a star and your GM is in the last year of his deal, the message from the top is simple. You have to win, and you have to win now. There is no luxury of drafting a project player who needs a couple of years to develop. They need guys who can step in and contribute from day one, because jobs are on the line. So this is what it all comes down to. This is the question. The moves they make this weekend, who they trade, what they do at pick 47, is going to be the final chapter of this story. Are we going to look back and say this was the draft where Chris Ballard saved his job and turned the Colts into a real contender? Or is this going to be the weekend it all fell apart? The final mistake that led to a complete teardown and a long, painful rebuild under a brand new regime? That's the massive question hanging over Indy, and I really want to know what you think. Get down in the comments and tell me what you would do if you were the Colts GM. What's the call at 47? And if you enjoyed this deep dive breakdown, do me a huge favor and subscribe to NFL Nexus and hit that like button. It really, really helps the channel out. Hey, one last thing. If you want another way to support what we do here, we've just put out a brand new line of coloring books. They're perfect for football fans of any age. Your kids, grandkids, hey, even for you. You can check them out using the link right there in the description or just scan the QR code that's on your screen. Your support is what lets us keep doing these deep dives. Thanks so much for watching.